Hello and welcome to Stylish Chats with Creatives. Today on the podcast, I'm chatting to Kayleigh Shore. Kayleigh is the owner of Be Diddy, a curated vintage kids clothing shop, and she is Mancunian based. Hello.
Hi.
How are you? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I was saying I've got this cold sore and when I'm chatting, it is so painful. But other than that, all good. It's really impacting my day to day. Eating, which I love to do. Chatting, which I also love to do. All the good stuff.
All the good things.
Yeah.
They're the worst though, especially when they're in the corner and you're like, I just want to eat without my skin cracking like the
They
Joker.
are. And then I feel like I need to tell everyone about it because it's so prominent. And I went to the post office before to drop some parcels off of Be Diddy, and I know the guys really well because I'm in there every day. Big up Sale Post Office. They are so nice and sound like the best post office ever. But they're always pretty cheeky chappy. And then one of them was like, "Oh, have you got a bit of sellotape on the side of your mouth?" And it was a Compeed patch.
Oh.
And I was like, "No, it's a Compeed patch. I've got a cold." So embarrassing. He was like, "Oh, I didn't know if you'd been do you know when you bite sellotape with your teeth?
Yeah.
To see the parcels." I was like, "No, great, perfect."
That's hilarious. I love a bit of banter like that, especially when you're self-employed. Getting that kind of bit of banter just makes my day.
Yeah, I love them. I know them really well because I'm in there every day, and they know that my name's Kayleigh, but they always call me Ashley. And do you know, just stupid stuff.
Yeah,
they're really funny though. They're so nice.
Oh, that's so good. So, how did you get to the point of having your own business, of curating your own vintage kids wear? I've seen some of the kids wear and I'm like, these are awesome. So how did you get to that point?
It was basically just stuff that I wanted to wear for kids. No, well, it was in a way. Basically, I'd always kind of wanted to do my own thing. I think I didn't know that I did, but now it's all come about. I'm like, yeah, I feel like everything was kind of working towards this in a way, but I never just knew exactly what it was that I wanted to do. I remember when I live in Manchester and there's a place in Altrincham called Altrincham Market, but it's a really cool market with loads of independent stalls and food. And when that first opened, I remember saying to my mum, I would love to be able to have a stall on there. That looks so good. So that was always in the back of my mind, but I just never really knew what it was that I would do. Then when I got pregnant by surprise with Ben, I was it just opened this whole new world to me where I was like, wow, I need to buy so much stuff. The amount of stuff was just crazy. Started looking at everything. Everything was really expensive. Then I was like, I always buy secondhand things for myself. Why wouldn't I buy it for my kids? So then got a pram secondhand. Then started looking for clothes and bits and bobs. And I remember I really wanted to get some Carhartt dungarees and I couldn't find any anywhere. So then honestly, it took me about a year or so to find a supplier that would stock them in the UK because no one was really doing it at the time. So I spent a year trying to track down a supplier, found this supplier, and then it kind of just snowballed from there, really. But yeah, this all came about when I was pregnant because it just opens I was like, oh, these other secondhand things you can buy too. That's a bit more niche. So I think that's where the idea then came from.
Yeah, I think a lot of people I know who have got kids have gone, I'm not paying that price for that, and have found stuff on Vinted. Or a friend of mine years ago, her kid that I'm talking about is 12 now, so it's a long time ago. She went to the car boot. It was when car boots were peak. She spent 10 quid on 2 IKEA bags full of brand new kids' clothes.
It's so good. And also with Be Diddy, I think as well, the stuff that I sell on Be Diddy is really hard wearing stuff. Because I was finding that I was getting stuff from high street places and things, and I'd wash it once or twice, and then the zip would come off, or it would bust, or the button would break, and I was like, but why is this? And then all the vintage stuff that was like from over 20 years ago would wear really, really well. And then I was like, I would rather pay a little bit more for something that's better quality, better for the planet, etc., etc. And then I was like, I think it's a good idea. Maybe other people think it's a good idea. And then thankfully they did.
Yeah, honestly, I think so many people are buying secondhand. I'm like a sucker for it now as well. And like Vinted is one of my like
Oh
best
my God.
friends.
I have to go through like spells of Vinted because I use it like, do you know, like when people say they have like a song that's on loop in the head or like a Roman Empire, like Vinted is my Roman Empire. So I have to like, I'll go through phases where I'm on it loads and I'm like, right, I have to delete the app and step away. Because then also, I think with Vinted, because it's so cheap and accessible, I think that can make you buy stuff that you don't need as well, which also isn't great, but it's fun. And I will not have a bad word to say against Vinted. It is really good.
Yeah, I'm the same. And then I think like, oh, it's only a couple of quid and postage is only a couple of quid. So what's a fiver? And then before I know it, I've bought like 10 things.
That's the thing. Like my boyfriend is like hooked on it now, and he wears like pretty expensive stuff and like Japanese brands and like what, like, you know, like more like rare menswear, expensive stuff. I don't even know. But he's always like, oh, I got this and it was a bargain. Like, should have been like 250 quid and I got it for like 40 quid. And then he'll get it and he's like, oh, the fit's not right. And then I'm like, well, that's annoying as well, though, because then
Yeah.
you have to re-upload it. But I do get the hype with Vinted because it is very good and very cheap.
Yeah, and I think I've sold like a couple of Lucy and Yak's dungarees on there, and like if you know what size, the key to it is if you know what size you are in that particular brand, and it's not one that's like
Yeah. If you know
sketchy.
exactly what you're looking for. Do you know what's great on Vinted, though, is the recommended for you. Like the algorithm of that, I'm like, yeah, I want that, I want that, I want that.
Yeah.
It like really hooks you in. The algorithm's really good on the stuff that you've liked, of how it suggests you things.
Yeah, massively. Like at the moment, I was looking for like some trousers for work that are like elasticated so that like if I'm having a bloated day, I'm fine and like feel a
Yeah,
bit more
yeah, yeah.
comfortable. And now it keeps coming up with stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, now I'm down a rabbit hole of sequin trousers.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
oh God, why am I here?
I'm trying to be really good this year, actually. Like, I'm constantly getting rid of stuff, and I'm not that sentimental really about like keeping hold of things. But I don't know if it's because I am like a reseller. It's just like, I don't know, just having stuff is not. I'm not that sentimental with stuff. Like my own wardrobe, I sell loads of it over on Be Diddy Wears, which is my other account where I just like show my secondhand outfits and things like that. Um, so yeah, at the beginning of the year, I just put a list together of things that I'm missing from my wardrobe and just got rid of loads of stuff. I'm trying my best to stick to that, but we'll see. We're only in Feb.
That's a good idea, though. I did have a one in, one out policy. I read the Marie Kondo book years ago. And so I
Yeah.
still like kind of try and not overbuy because I am such a like endorphin hunter for like clothes and stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll buy
You
this.
know what, I am, but I think with B Diddy, that because it's my job now, I kind of get my kick from that. Like I love
Yeah.
finding stuff for B Diddy, and then it's kind of like I'm still shopping in a way, but I'm doing it sustainably. But then I get to sell it on, so it's like the best of both worlds, really.
Yeah, you get it from both sides. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the dream. The dream. Oh, and I saw the dungarees. You, I think it was on your website. There's a picture of the dungarees and like little stripy ones. And I know my nephew's got them. My friend's twins have got them, and I'm like, oh, just keep these pieces because they're just gonna last so
Yeah,
long.
the thing is as well, what's quite good is the resale on them. Like you can buy them, your kids can wear them, and then you can sell them for pretty much the same price that you bought them for, because kids vintage at the moment has gone so expensive, even for me to buy in. Like I use wholesalers, but the prices have just really racked up over the past couple of years. This will be like my fourth year of doing it now, which is mad. But then I'm really conscious of like one, I know there's a cost of living and I'm like skin it and I know everyone else is. And two, it's like how much, it's mad to me, but like how much would you realistically pay for an item of kids' clothing? I mean, I know I was saying to buy less stuff that's more expensive, and I do agree with that to an extent, but then, I don't know, like it just makes me feel a bit like, oh, I wouldn't want to be charging like over the odds for stuff. So it's a really fine line.
Yeah, I think a lot of small businesses are finding that at the moment, like myself included. Like, it's, you're well within your right to put your prices up because the cost of living's going up, but then are you going to get booked less or sold? Are you going to sell
Yeah,
less because
but I
people
don't want
can't
to
afford
like
it?
outprice anyone, or like customers that have been with me for the start and then being like, whoa, it's like, you know, if they have dropped off a bit and then they come back, I don't want them to be like, everything's doubled, because it's not at all, like not even close, but I would hate for that. Um, but yeah, it comes at me from every angle because like I have wholesalers who I pay to source stuff, then I have to get it shipped over, but then the shipping has gone up massively, and then I have to ship it out my end, but then I've not increased my shipping costs because I don't want it to impact the customers, so then I have to absorb that in other ways. Like it's really, really hard at the minute.
Yeah, it's a lot of balancing, isn't it? And especially, like you say, you've got a lot of factors to factor into the cost of
Yeah, even
reselling
like
stuff.
I don't think people realize like it goes from like me spending my time hand picking the stock. Like I never buy anything in bulk. So I'm constantly in talks with people like, yes, no, yes, no. Then I pay for it all to be professionally cleaned. So that's another cost. Then I get it shipped to me. And then sometimes things fall through the net. Like my suppliers are really good. But sometimes things get damaged in transit or something. So then I have like a tailor that I take things to be repaired, or sometimes I'll hand repair stuff, then I'll photograph it all. Like before it gets to you, there's 1,000 steps before it gets into your hands, and all of them cost.
Yeah, yeah, it's huge. And I think people know if they're sustainably shopping, they are aware of that anyway, because I think they're not just picking stuff up from high
Yeah.
street and just being like, yeah, that'll do. They're obviously conscious in their shopping habits. Um, but it's just this, well, complete tangent, but it's just the cost of living. I think the pandemics and Brexit have all impacted shipping and lots of other
Yeah.
things, and lots of unexpected things, I think, as too. Like,
Yeah. Even like before we were pressed to record, before we were saying that I had the shop, like when we had the shop, like the bills in the second year we were there, like more than doubled. And we were just like, how? Like how we're not using it anymore. Like it's just been wild, like the changes over the past few years that I've been doing it. I mean, like 4 years is short and long. Like so
yeah,
much has happened in 4 years. Like it was the pandemic, and then it was like cost of living, then it was Brexit. Like I've just been like putting out fires
yeah.
all the time. But I'm still here, so fine.
So, what made you to decide to have a bricks and mortar shop, and then what made you decide to close it? Was it the cost of living that changed
So
the end?
I wasn't looking for a shop. I had a studio in Sale where I lived, and I'd actually just signed for a different studio in Altrincham that I never showed on like any social media or anything, because I started doing Altrincham Market, and which was fab because it was like something that I'd always wanted to do, and I don't drive, so I was like, if I have a studio that's closer to Altrincham, getting the stock to the market will be easier for me than like getting lifts or taxis or looking after in the tram, whatever. Um, so I signed for this other studio, and then a customer actually messaged me and was like, "Oh my god, this shop's come up for lease. I think you should go for it. It's perfect." So I went to look at it, thinking I'm not going to get it because I can't afford it, and I'm not looking for a shop. And then I went and fell in love with it and was like, "Oh my god, it's perfect. It's so nice. Like the location was amazing." But it was a cafe as well, and I was like, I can't do a shop and cafe. Then my friend was looking to open a cafe. So I rang her and I was like, don't suppose you want to open a shop and cafe with me? And she was like, yeah. We had
Cool.
no idea what we were doing. And I think that was good, because I think if we'd had time to think about it or knew what we were doing, we probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
So then, I don't know, it was just like the stars aligned, and then like in a couple of weeks we ended up having this shop and cafe, and we like did it all up ourselves, and it was so exciting and it was so good, and like I don't see it at all as any kind of failure. Like we had such a good time, and like I look back on it with like such fond memories, and like all the customers and everyone was so supportive and lovely, and it was in such a nice area. But then, yeah, like there was so many different factors of why we shut it. So, like I was just saying, like the bills more than like doubled while we were there. We had a few like the building was really old, so we had a few problems with that was like out of our control. But like there was a couple of times when my stock got damaged in floods, and it was just like it was a really stressful time actually. And then Penn was starting school. And I was working weekends at the shop, and then the shop opened like 8 or half 8. I can't even remember now, because it was a cafe and there was a school across the way. So we'd open before the school opened, and like all the parents would come in for coffee, and it just wasn't going to be doable anymore. Liv, who did the cafe, was pregnant, so she was going to go off and have a baby. And we were just like, with all the other factors, it was just the right decision to close it. And it was really good because we were both on the same page. Like it would have been awful if I was like, well, I really want to carry it on, and she wanted to shut or whatever. But it was like it was the right time to open it, and it was the right time to close it.
Yeah, it sounds so like I saw pictures of it from other people and stuff, and saw it and was like, it's just such a cool idea. Do you think you'd open a shop in the future?
Well, it's really funny because a girl I know who has a vintage shop in Stockport messaged me the other day and was like, the shop next to me is up, and I think you should have it. It's a perfect size, like blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to come to Stockport in the next couple of days, so I'll like pop in the shop to see you. And then I randomly bumped into her in the street when I was in Stockport, and she was like, would you do it? And I was like, not at the moment, now, no, because Penn's still so young, and like the studio space that I have now is right by a school, and they rang me a few weeks ago and was like, she's fell and she's got a black eye, come in immediately. And I feel like I need to be close to her and like on call. Whereas the shop, you're so tied to that physical space, and you need to give it your all. If you have a shop, like you have to open on the days that you say you're open, you have to open on the times, else people lose trust. Like if people come and it's shut, it doesn't look good. Yeah. And at this point in my life, I'm not like welded to that. It's nice now because I can just kind of work as and when I want. If I need to do something, if like Penn's at school, having a school play, something, I can just go. I'm not worried about the shop being open. So yeah, at this present time, no, but never say never.
Yeah, I think sometimes the flexibility outweighs being tied down like to a shop or something. And
Yeah,
I think like
I've always been like, opening a shop was like my dream, and I've done it and I loved it, and it was so nice that I could do it with my friend as well. And I just, yeah, I don't see it as like it was closed and that was like a bad experience. I just see it as like a step in the journey.
yeah, and I think it's important to have these steps and go like, at that time it was perfect for you guys, and like
Yeah.
that's great, and you'll learn from it, and then you're like, okay, cool, it's just not right again now for us. Like,
Yeah, definitely. And I think if I would have tried to keep it going, it would have been the end of Be Diddy, to be honest, because it just, yeah, it wasn't working, and it wasn't working for me in my personal life either. So I just had to prioritize that.
yeah, yeah. So what did you do before you did Be Diddy? What was your job before?
I went to uni, but I dropped out.
Right, I'm sure there's a story in there.
And then I've always like been so interested in fashion, and like worked in shops, and then like worked my way up to like management level in shops. But I knew the end goal was always like not working on the shop floor. It was like working for a head office or styling or just like something. But I knew if I worked my way up, I could learn like every aspect and get like contacts of like head offices and stuff. So yeah, worked in retail. Then I ended up working for in a head office in Manchester in Northern Quarter for a menswear fast fashion company. And obviously it didn't really align with how I shopped, but it was such a good job because it was a really small business. There was like 4 of us, it was like 4 girls, and everyone just did everything. And I was proper thrown in at the deep end because the owners of the company at the time employed me to be like an operations manager, and then gave me the job. And then she was like, right, I've got some news. I'm actually pregnant and I'm going off in like 2 months. So it will be like you in charge. So I was like, what? But it was like the making of me, really, because then I just had to do everything.
Yeah.
So I worked there, which was, like I say, it was like fast fashion. So it wasn't what I was like personally into, but it was such a good job. Like the company was really nice. The owners were lovely. They like really looked after us. And like I just learned everything there, and it was just like such a step in the right direction of like, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I just knew it was kind of in the right direction. And so I did that. Then I got pregnant with Penn, and then I got made redundant from that job while I was on maternity because the company folded. It was like a small business and they had 2 businesses, and the other business was doing like really, really well. So they had to just cut the losses and get rid of that one, which was, at the time I was like, everything's fine, it's all fine. But actually looking back, it did impact me quite a lot, I think, like, because I was on maternity and then I had to apply for jobs while I was on maternity. And then I was like, I'm on maternity, I've not slept for like 7 months, and now I have to go to interviews. I've not worked. I don't know what I'm doing. And yeah, and then I got a new job that was a really good job, actually, working for like beauty company. And then it meant I had to go back to work when Pen was only 7 months old, which is quite young, really. And like, she still was up in the night and stuff. And then this job was like, I had to get the tram and the bus there. It used to take me ages to get there. Like, I'd leave the house at 7, I'd get back at like 7. It was just a lot. So then I did that for a bit, and then we went into lockdown. But all during this time, I was like thinking like, I want to do Be Diddy, but I didn't quite know what it was yet. And then I was like looking for suppliers, like while I was on the bus on the way to this job. And then it got to lockdown, and I was like still kind of working. We were like doing like part-time hours or something, working from home, but I had Pen here with me and she was 1. So I was like trying to look after Pen, trying to work this job. And then I was just like, I just can't do this anymore. It's too much. So I handed my notice in, got like my last paycheck, and then I used that last paycheck to buy a batch of Carhartt dungarees. When Pen was like in bed, I built the website. I'm such a technophobe as well. I'd like go on YouTube, be like, how to build a website, pause. Then they'd be like, press A. And I'd be like, go back, press A. So I built the website myself.
Amazing.
I was just watching like YouTube videos. But I always had like once I knew it was that, then it was like quite a clear, strong vision of what it was going to be. So yeah, the dungarees arrived. I was like buzzing, trying them all on Pen. Did some pics, launched the website, had like launched Instagram with 0 followers, like 0. Then like it was like my mum, my sister, whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember the first ever collection was like the 19th of August, and I just kind of like launched it into the abyss, like, oh, my mates might buy something, and everything sold out.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa. And then it just kind of built from there.
That's
And that was 4 years ago.
That's insane. And I think you're right. Sometimes you kind of have a gut feeling that you're slowly going towards the thing you want to do, but you're not quite sure. It's not quite clear what it is. And then all of a sudden you just have a light bulb moment and it's like, boom, it's that.
Yeah.
And it sounds so good.
I know. It's really funny because like one of my best mates, a guy called Paul, shout out Paul if you're listening. He always used to have these like mad house parties. And like after it, like in the house parties, like he's a tutor. And but he works in fashion, and he always used to be like, no, you will do something like so good. And like it's really funny because now he's always like, you're doing the thing, which is nice.
Yeah, it's so good. Um, Going back to your uni experience, you say you dropped out. What course did you choose and why did
I did
you
photography actually.
did
Um,
you?
yeah, but it was just like, I think I thought the course would be me like working with Kate Moss, hot footing it to London, jobs at Vogue. Do you know what I mean? But it wasn't. It was just like learning the inner workings of a camera, and I was like, this is not for me.
Yeah, yeah. I think sometimes those courses as well, when I was finishing college, I was looking at courses and I wanted to do printmaking and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was kind of all going digital and that's not really where I wanted to be at that time. So I just decided to go and work. And now they're all coming back in to fashion to doing all these like cottage courses.
Yeah. Do you know
And
what it was as well? Like our tutors were like, there was no kind of like mixture of like teachers on the course. It was all just like white older men. So it was very like rigid, and I was just like, nah, it's not really my vibe.
yeah,
Not
I think,
knowing what I was going to do, but then was like, I'll work something out.
yeah. And sometimes just being, not knowing what you want to do is sometimes the best thing as well. Like not knowing that you don't want to do something is just as good as
Yeah,
knowing what you do want to do is what I'm trying to say.
I am like, do you know, like a 5 year? I'm so far away from like being a 5 year plan girly. Like I was always like, I'm never going to have a kid. I've never really known what I want to do. Even now, I don't know what I'm doing. Like I'm just more of like a day to day. Like if you carry on, you'll kind of go in the right direction. I don't really have a plan. I never do or have. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing either. So everyone's was like, so do you think you'll do Be Diddy forever? And I'm like, don't know. Like, I don't even know if we're doing it next week. Like, I just don't know. I just never have a plan. But I think that can be good and bad.
Yeah, I also think that's quite a creative mind. Like I'm very much like, well, it drives my other half at the wall because my my work now, the way it's booked is changed. And so I might not know, I actually don't know what I'm doing in 2 weeks' time because I've got nothing booked
Yeah,
in.
this is the thing. I'm a bit like, because I've had 4 years now of being self-employed, and it's so up and down at the moment. Like B Diddy still does really well. And like I'll put things online and they sell. That's great. But then it's like I can't do collections every day. I'm at a crossroads where I've grown it organically probably as much as I can. I need to get on TikTok, but I just haven't got a clue. I can't really employ anyone because it's so up and down. I just cannot plan. Like, and I know I was saying I'm not a planner, but I think I'm at a bit of a point now where I'm like, maybe I do need to start plan. Like, I'm just at a bit of like, not a crossroads, but like a what's next kind of vibe.
Yeah. What I've learned from TikTok and other people who on TikTok as well is TikTok is way more chill with like you can just post quite
I think, because
chilled content.
I'm like really chatty, and I'm always like really, I've always been like this with B Diddy. Like, if it's something bad's going on, I'll say like, this bad thing has happened, or if it's something really mint's happened. So I think the stuff that I chat on about in my stories, day to day chat, is probably what I should put on TikTok. So that's what I worry about. I'm like, Instagram and B Diddy is like, you look at it and you're like, that's B Diddy, it's a brand, fab. But then when I go on TikTok, it's just someone stood in the kitchen talking about a potato. And I'm like, well, how
Yeah.
does B Diddy fit into that? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think, I mean, I sat and watched a video about a girl who fell asleep with eyebrow tint on her face and then was trying to scrub it off. And then I watched like 4 videos on it and like progressively her eyebrows got back to normal.
But
But
their algorithm's really good as well. Because when I first signed up, I was saying this on B Diddy's Insta, like it was probably like over a year ago now though. The first things it was serving me was just girls whose boyfriends were in prison going on visits. And then I got really into it, like, oh yeah, when can she go and see him next? And then I was just getting served all these videos of girls with the boyfriends in prison going on visits. And I was sold. Like, I was like, make this into a TV series.
yeah, I think that's it. You can get lost on it. And the good thing about it is it's quite normal people have been given a platform to have their say, be funny. Like, you know, there's people who I found in the pandemic and they're now touring as comedians. Like,
Yeah. Do you know what? scares me about it is like on Instagram, even though I've got like a few thousand followers, I feel like I kind of know everyone. Like I have so many repeat customers, people in my DMs, like it just feels quite small and nice and like friendly, and touch wood, I've only had like a few bad trolley things happen to me, like really few and far between. But TikTok feels so vast and big, and I don't know anyone, and I don't want to go on there. And I don't know, it just feels a different vibe. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know if it's just because I'm old.
It definitely
I don't
feels
think
a
it
bit.
is. Like, I don't know.
It definitely feels a bit like the unknown, doesn't it?
I like going viral. Like, I don't really want to go viral. Like, I don't know, like going viral for me would be stressful because I don't have, everything's one of a kind. And what would I do? Like, I don't know, like going viral isn't like not my main priority. And I think over there, that's kind of the vibe. I don't know. I don't know enough about it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's definitely different to Instagram. I do feel like it's not as many people are chasing the algorithm, stuff that I'm following anyway. People aren't chasing the algorithm as much as what they are on Instagram, but that's just my perception of
Yeah,
who I'm
Instagram's
following.
changed so much as well. Like all the like faceless videos, like do a reel, post this and do that. Like, oh, it's a lot, isn't it? Like, I just want to go back to the pictures of like food and dogs for me.
With that weird like vignette around them.
Yeah. Lived for that.
God, that was awful. I've been trying on Instagram, trying to put like little reels up and then just like sharing the podcast on my work portfolio Instagram, and then trying to add a bit of work and just be a bit more personable on it. But then you don't realize how much time and work it actually takes to schedule it all out and make it all the
Yeah,
content.
like I'm such like fly of the seat. Is that the saying? Fly of the seat? No, seat.
On the edge of your
Fly
seat.
of the edge.
Yeah,
On the
something like that.
I don't know, whatever, that is me. Like, I'm just like, ooh, what shall I post today? I'll post this. Like, I was saying to Sabira, who's in the studio next door to me, this year I want to just get better at planning stuff because I feel like that's where is my downfall, really. I'm just like, what's happening today? Like, rather than having like a plan.
Yeah. But I do think because you've got one of a kind pieces, it is harder. You can't make a reel about, say, like a pair of cool dungarees, post it on a Friday and make it on the Monday, post it on the Friday because it might have sold in that
Yeah, they
week.
would have gone. But what I try and do as well, with Be Diddy, and I think the reason why it's done quite well is I don't want to just be like, buy this week's a collection. That was, I'll always try and do like other things as well. So if you come to the account and you don't necessarily like have the money to buy something, or you've not got a kid but you're interested in sustainability, there might be something there for you as well, other than just like constantly buying and selling. Because I think that's just pretty boring. It would bore me. Like if I went to an account and it was just all products all the time. I don't know. I try and mix it up.
Yeah, I think people like the more like lifestyle thing, and especially because you're a one-man band, they like to find out who you are because they're almost buying into you, not just your product.
Yeah, I think like people always say that. Like they're like, oh, I think it's done well because you're. It's always been you that's on there, which I kind of get like a face to a brand and things like that. So yeah, maybe, I don't know. Probably quite
Yeah.
annoying every day. Like, hiya, me again.
I do it on my on both of them, and then today I posted a little video about my dog. I was hoping to just get her like walking, and then she stopped because she spied like loads of squirrels, and I just started laughing. Like she just literally stopped perfectly in frame. I was like, oh, I didn't even need to tell you, and you've done
You know
it.
what? Things like that as well. Like when people are like, oh, for the algorithm to like you, do this, press this, post at this time. It's not like for me, if something stupid happens, that's the thing that people like the best. Like a few weeks ago, there was like a ped egg in a charity shop, and I kept going in to be like, has the ped egg been sold or not? And like everyone was going wild for it. But it's things like that you don't plan always seems to do better, I think.
Yeah, and again, it's just that kind of bringing your own personality through on it as well.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
if you're very stiff about it, like you say with certain products, or like for me, it's like when I'm available and stuff, people get bored. They don't want to know about that. They want to know that you're, I don't know, that you're the BIM. I was the BIMfluencer this week on my
Oh, I
street. So
saw
like,
that. That was really funny.
I
Yeah,
was
I
like,
love stuff like
that's me, you know, and like people want to, they want you to be, they want to know who you are. And like, it's okay showcasing your portfolio and stuff, but they want to know from my side, they want to know who they're getting in the studio. Like,
yeah. I
are
think
they
with
going
a
to?
small business as well, like that's one of the best bits about it. Like, you know, you're buying from this person. Like, if you buy from them, you know that it's directly going to taking Penny to York last week, or you know, things like that, which I think's really nice.
Yeah, it keeps it nice and personal.
Yeah.
So what's one of your hardest things about running your business?
Um, at the moment, like I was just saying, I'm just getting really kind of bogged down in like the planning of stuff. I'm just like, I just feel like I can't plan anything out because it's so up and down. Um, it is hard. Like I do think people see me and be like, "Ooh, what a nice life," and I do have a nice life. Of course, I have a nice life. I'm like very fortunate compared to some other people, but it is a slog. It is just me doing absolutely everything and trying to be like a mum, a friend, a sister, a daughter, like whatever, just everything to everyone. And especially while Penny's so young, like I am her like everything. Do you know what I mean? So like being present there, but then making sure the business is still running, and it's like a 24-hour job. Like it's like that's I'm not even going to try and say another saying because I always get it wrong. But do you know when people say how like when your hobby turns into a job and you never work a day in your life or whatever, but then you just work every day of your life? It's like that basically.
Yeah.
But I do love it, and it's like I definitely do it for the love of it and not the money. Like I would never be a millionaire doing this. I think people think like, even my friends sometimes are like, yeah, but everything sells out. Like, whoa. And I'm like, yeah, but it's all relative. Like the money that I've then the money just goes back into Be Diddy to make it better again. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that.
Yeah. It's a constant. I find being self-employed, you're spinning so many plates. Like I'm sure I've said on the podcast before, but I sent out, this is quite embarrassing actually, but I sent out like a hiya introducing kind of email. Here's my website. And the person emailed back and were like, you know, your website's not working. And I was like, you have got to be fucking kidding me. And like, I didn't know how to fix it. I messaged my friend who's a designer and I was like, babe, I need some help because I don't know why it's not
So
working.
annoying as well, especially because like when you reach out to someone, you're always a bit like, oh, like, but then you're like, oh yeah, I've done it now, and then you're like, fuck.
And I was just like, oh, thanks for highlighting that for me. I'll get that sorted. And I was like
Yeah, so,
panicking, like, fuck.
yeah. There's nothing that you can do. I wouldn't worry too much.
No. And sometimes you've just got to like take it in your stride and
Do you know
there'll
what you
come a
should
day.
have done? Got on those YouTube videos I was on, like press this to restart your website. Pretty good actually.
Yeah. Me and my other half were saying you can learn so much on YouTube. It's
Do you know
insane.
what? I waste so much time just like divvying around, just doing like scrolling my phone, stupid stuff. And I always think, I never do, but I always think like I could be learning so much now if I just did like a free course or, you know, there is so much stuff you can do and learn.
It's just not as enticing as Instagram though, is it?
I know. It's bad. It's so addictive.
Really addictive. What's your favourite thing about running Be Diddy?
I was speaking about this like a few weeks ago, saying that it's just the time that it's given me because I was saying before, like prior to this, I used to go to that job where I was in 7 till 7. And I was telling the story how at Penn's old nursery, I could never drop her or pick her up. And it used to make me really, really upset because if for some reason I had the day off, something, I'd go and I'd be like, I'm here to pick up Penny. And they'd be like, yeah, who are you? And I'd be like, I'm a mum. But like, they just didn't know me because, and it used to like kill me. So the time that I get to like pick her up from school, like have days up where before she was at school, we'd have like a day off together in the week, is like my main thing that I love about Be Diddy. And then also there's loads of other stuff. Like I've met loads of cool people, loads of cool stuff has happened to me. It's like I'm so passionate about like vintage clothing. It's like my dream job. But as much it is as it is amazing, it's equal. It's like an equal balance. Like, and I feel like if something bad happens, you can have a really bad day, and you're like, right, I'm giving it in. But then the next day, you'll get an email of something like amazing happening, and then that like spurs you on to keep going, and it's just constantly like a scale.
Yeah, I definitely find I'll have days where I'm like, oh, what the bloody hell am I doing? Chasing invoices. Why can't I just be paid on a certain day? And like, why can't I just go to work and just do none of the other like fannying about? And then I'll have days where I'm like, oh my God, I've got a new client and I'm doing this and I'm doing this
Like
and it's so
sometimes
exciting.
I like fantasize about just like going to a job and sitting down at a desk and someone just telling me what to do. And I don't have to be the person thinking of the things to do and doing it. Like I'm just being told. And then at the end of the day, I shut my laptop and I just walk away.
Yeah, yeah. But I think then that also comes with its downsides too, with like if you're in an office, there's
Well,
office
exactly. Then I
politics and
wouldn't have the
everything
book that
else.
I love, which is the time. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like
Yeah, it's constant.
yeah.
I'm so glad it's not just me who's like, this is a wild roller coaster being self-employed,
It's
especially at the moment as well.
wild. I think being self-employed, probably more in the past, because I think more people now are like speaking up on it. And I used to think this was like such a like la la la. You're at home, you're having your avocado on toast, like your feet are up. Like it's not. It's a slog. If I'm not physically working and putting myself out there, I don't get anything. Like it is all on you. Like if you're ill, it's awful because you're like, oh my God, I've lost like a week's worth of work. Yeah. There
Yeah.
is obviously amazing ties to it, but it's not all roses.
No, and I think you're right. Like several of my friends work a lot and like we talk about putting in work boundaries and like having times when you're like working hours and stuff, which
I've got so much better at that. Like in the first couple of years, but I feel like you kind of have to, you don't have to be like that. But like in the first couple of years, I just went all in. But now I know it's established and it's there. I'm a lot better at being like, just leave it for a day, have a day off. Like I've got so much better at boundaries and like I'd reply to people in the middle of the night and stuff. And I'm just like, no, quiet mode is on. And I
yeah,
try and be like, it never really works. But like if I'm in the studio, like once I'm out of the studio, I'm like
yeah,
away from it if I can.
yeah.
And like now I try and have weekends, definitely not like doing orders or anything like that. And like I might reply to a couple of messages, but like I won't reply to emails or go into the studio unless it's like a super busy time or anything.
Yeah, I definitely have since having this time off from my other half, I then put like my office hours on the bottom of my email, like signature.
Yeah,
And I've found focus mode on my phone and then it goes into like black and white mode. What's that, like nighttime mode
yeah,
from like about 7 o'clock.
yeah.
So
I
it
think,
cuts off everything.
yeah, I think it's good because I think the more you do reply to people and work on the weekends, the more people expect it. And then when you don't, is when people are a bit like, oh. So the more you put it in place from the beginning is probably better in a way because then people aren't expecting it of you.
Yeah. And the amount of times I've like sat in a tent on holiday with my husband and answered an email or sent an invoice or like,
Oh my God,
it, you know,
my worst one is I went to Glastonbury last year and I did this like Glastonbury secondhand styling reel and he did like really, really well. And then I started getting like offers of work at Glastonbury. Like, will you do this for us while you're at Glastonbury? Will you do that? And I was like, yeah, 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 yeah. And then I got there And then my phone just died, and then I literally just threw it in a ditch and was just like partied for 5 days, and then like didn't do any of it. But then I was like, do you know what? Like after it, I was like, oh, that's so bad. I should have done that. It would have been a really good contact. But I was like, no, like I wasn't going there to do like content. I was just going with my mates. So yeah, you have to just create the boundaries, because I was like, I can't be working at Glastonbury. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
just gets too far, doesn't it?
Yeah, massively. I think mine last year was a job shifted, and it ate into some of mine and my other half's like holiday. So he works full time, so he'd already allocated the holiday.
Yeah,
And we sat down and chatted about it, and I was like, shall I take it? Because it's a 6-week long job. This is eating into it. And he just went, take it, because you don't know when the money's coming back in. And
yeah.
then this year at Christmas time, we kind of sat down and we were like, no, if you've got a holiday and it's not my busy period,
That's the
I'll
thing
take
about
it off.
planning, though, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
as much as you try and plan, like you book a holiday, but then if something comes in,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm trying to just be better at it. Like, I got a job offer when I was on holiday this year in Portugal, and I was like, this is amazing, and I would definitely do it when I'm back, but I can't do it. And they were actually really nice about it. And I had one before Christmas as well that wanted some work before Christmas, and I was like, I can't do it now, but I'll definitely do it for you in Jan. And they said, yeah. So I think if you're quite not strict with it, but people are a bit more lenient, I think, and get it.
Yeah. And I think like that time spent with family or your other half or whatever is so precious that actually like it's scary as fuck putting an out of office on. Like the out of office I put on was like, I'm away with my husband, I'll deal with this. You maybe even got one while I was
Yeah, I
away.
saw it when I emailed you. Yeah, I was like, good for
Yeah.
you.
But it's so scary putting it on. And then you're like, actually, it gives that boundary of people just going, actually, no, it's fine. And I think the only thing I dealt with was maybe the odd podcast email. And then I was chasing a couple of payments, which fine.
Yeah.
Like
I
it
think
took
the
10
more
minutes.
I think the more people do it, the easier it will become, because people will just expect it to see
Yeah.
like out of office and be like, oh yeah, cool, I won't get in touch. So everyone whack your out of office on and have a great time is my advice.
Yeah, yeah. I'm the same. I'm like, get it on,
Yeah.
get it done. Because also like I remember my dad when he'd only have one holiday a year, 1 week off a year, and he was self-employed. And he'd be like so stressed about like the work and stuff because he's an owner of his own business. And I'd be like, oh, dad just can't relax because he's stressed about everything. And actually sometimes like an out of office probably would have done him the world of good to
Yeah.
chill out.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
it's scary, don't get me wrong, like it is scary putting out of office on. And I think what helped me, I put my first one on when I had an operation and I physically couldn't go to work.
Yeah.
I was too high on codeine to even think about anything. So like I just had to put it on. And once that kind of first step had gone in, I was like, oh, actually, I can do this. I'm still going to get work when I come back. Nobody's going to forget who I am, because it's the
Yeah,
FOMO, isn't it?
it is. I do think it comes with time though. Like I was saying, like I feel like in the last year or so I've got better at it, because I know that it's there and won't just go, hopefully. If I have a week off, it's like already established, you know what I mean? But I think that does come with time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're so right as well with what you were saying. Like you put your all into stuff the first 2, 5, 10 years, and then you can not necessarily take your foot off the gas, but you can go, this is actually what I'm doing. This is how I'm going to work.
Yeah,
And like, take it as it is kind of thing.
yeah, sure.
Yeah. So also you mentioned to me before we press record that you've got some events coming up. I know they're going to be before this goes out. But can you tell me like how you got into the event side of stuff and what they entail?
Yeah, so when we had the shop, we always held events in there. I think it's just like with Be Diddy, and so Scan Studios, so my friend Sabira is a sustainable jewelry maker, and she's in the studio next door. It's like we share a floor of like a office based studios type thing. And when we moved in, we were like, we've got quite a lot of like crossover of customer. But then I was like, I feel like I've got customers that would buy from you, and she'd have customers that would buy from me. And then we were like, how can we make the space work and make it work that we're like helping each other out? And the brands, even though they're really different, kind of complement each other. So when we moved into that space, like, we always knew we wanted to do events. So we did our first one just before Christmas, and it was like a studio opening party. And we invited a girl down called she does like nail art in Manchester, and she's really cool. She's called Daughter, her brand, and she came and did nail art for us. My sister does like floristry, so she did like loads of flowers. We had some cakes made with our like branding on, and just getting like loads of other like small businesses involved that were from the area. And it's just like a community kind of thing. Like, I think of Be Diddy as like a little community, and I like to extend that, and I like meeting people and chatting, as you can tell from this. So it's so it's just like perfect. Although with events, like, I think I am confident, but when it's your event, it's quite stressful, because you're just like, it's like when you throw birthday parties and you're like, what if no one comes? Like, I think it's a good idea, but what if everyone else thinks it's really shit? Like, is there enough food? Is the booze? Like, oh, what if someone comes that I've not seen since school? Or, do you know, just like things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, I've always, like I was saying, from the shop, we did events there, and then like when I moved into the studio, me and Spira was like, it's definitely something we want to do. So we've got this Mother's Day one coming up next weekend, and again, that's got like loads of small businesses in it, and I think it's going to be really good. We've got the kids making these little, like, we've got all these reclaimed. Basically, I'm in charity shop like every other day, and a customer of Be Diddy is now a manager of my favourite charity shop. Shout out,
Nice.
Beth. You are a real one. And I went into her charity shop and was like, we want to get loads of like broken beads and jewellery and repurpose them into like new bracelets. Do you have anything? She bagged up loads of broken beads, and we got the kids making these like little Mother's Day bracelets that say like mum, mummy, and it's all like vintage beads that they've strung on.
Oh, cute.
There's loads of stuff going on. I think it's going to be really good. I say this now, but ask me again next week, I'll be like, it's going to be awful. So we've got that next week, and then I'm doing some styling for Sustainable Fashion Party for a fashion show and event that's on Saturday night. So I've been doing that this week. It's been a busy week this week, and like stuff that I don't usually do, like this, doing styling for that fashion show. So it's like when it's quiet, and then everything just comes at once, doesn't it? So I'm excited about that. I really, really would like to get into sustainable styling. I think there's a bit of a gap in the market for it, because obviously stylists are used on like shoots and stuff all the time. But I think the way that everything's going, I think there will come a point where people will be like, well, I only want to wear secondhand stuff. And I think that there'll be a need for more sustainable stylists.
Yeah. I think a few of styling friends that I know, they're already into their sustainable stuff, and they're posting like little outfit like reels and TikToks and stuff, and there seems to be blowing up a bit on TikTok. And
Yeah, well, I've got my second account, Be Diddy Wears, where I'm supposed to be posting my secondhand outfits every day, but it's just too much, really. And I'd love to find a way to bring Be Diddy Wears and Be Diddy together, which is something I potentially might try and do in the future. So everything's like under one roof, because even today, like, I posted a video about a new collection, and then people just commented underneath like, but what are you wearing? Not in like a rude way. They're like,
yeah.
but where's your top from? Like, which is funny. And yeah, it's something that I do want to get into. So doing this is quite a good little like experiment for me, to see how it goes, and like if it is actually something that I want to do.
Yeah, I think there's definitely space for it. And I think you're right. Often a stylists are in a quandary, because we're styling not very sustainable things most of the time. I'm going to just lay it out there. And we're all wearing secondhand clothes. We're like conscious of stuff. We're rebuying. We're maybe like fixing stuff, altering things. And then we're being asked to style a t-shirt that's stitched wonky, and it
Yeah,
might be a big brand, but it's still stitched wonky because it's still
yeah.
made at the same place as cheaper brands. And you're like, oh, why are we
I
not?
think it's like such a skill as well to be able to like. I don't know if you've seen it going around on the internet in the past few weeks, but people saying like, what's good about secondhand shopping is it's you forced into choosing things you actually like rather than things that are just presented to you. And
Yeah.
I think that with I think any kind of styling is like that anyway, because like you have to have the eye and the creativity to make looks. Because in my mind, I'm like everyone knows how to dress, and but people actually don't. Like they don't, which to me is wild. But I get that that's why it's such a skill and people are paid to do it. But I think with sustainable styling, like that's even like another step because you're having to go out and like find all the things. I just think there's such a gap in the market for it.
Yeah, I think somebody I follow, I think it's Hannah Gale on Instagram.
Yeah,
I don't know if you follow her, but
yeah,
she does now her top 10, and it's a mixture of high street and stuff off Vinted or eBay. And I
yeah, it
think
is.
like that kind of thing is going to start coming for
Well, I
like
was speaking
being
about it
pushed for.
on my stories the other day, and like so many people getting back to me. Like I was at home one morning, and do you know like the fashion things you do on like this morning and whatever, and they're like, it's florals for spring now. Let's like get all these women out in these floral dresses from I won't say anywhere, but
Yeah,
where.
yeah, high street, yeah.
Yeah. And then I was just like, that is mad. That is mad that that happens every day. And it must do well because it's on every day and people buy it. And it's like people that are quite, like, probably older ladies, I would say, don't want to like categorize anyone that are at home that are a bit like, what do I need to wear to look cool? Yeah, they tell me to wear this, I'll go and buy it. Like, why is that not being explored? Why is that not like one day a week? They're like, and then we'll do the trend, but secondhand, or like the shoes are from X place, but the dress is from Oxfam, or like whatever. That's mad to me.
I think also, doesn't it play, this is maybe going to go a bit deep, but doesn't it play into the patriarchy and the fact that as women, we're told we should look a certain way and we
Yeah, it's
should
mad.
dress a certain way?
It's so old fashioned. Like I can't believe it's still a thing in the same format.
Yeah.
Like it's never moved on. It's just really outdated, I think.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. And I think like I I went to my mum and dad's, and my mum was like, "Oh, Shah, can we just go through my wardrobe and find out what fits?" Like, see,
Oh,
sometimes I'll see like stuff and be like, "You can actually rework this skirt with a different top and maybe dress
yeah,
like this and this." So much had labels on, and I was like, "Mum, we
yeah.
need
It's
to have a
mad,
chat."
isn't it? My mum's quite good. Like she's like pretty thrifty, like me, but she will be like. She's been in Rome this week, and she was saying that like she went to Asda to have a look for some outfits. Bless her.
I mean, they do have some nice stuff, but again, like you said earlier, it's how long do they last?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
You know, it's got to last now. And like, I think I get annoyed with stuff. I had some big branded sports leggings years ago, and I did a squat in the gym in them, and you could see everything. And then I bought some high street ones that I've now had for 6 years, 7 years maybe,
Yeah.
and they're
Also,
thick as anything and just incredible.
yeah, I never ever want to come across as, and I hope that I don't, and don't think I do, but please correct me if I'm wrong, as like a preachy, like you must buy everything secondhand, like not at all. Like some things I was saying, I've been really struggling finding like shoes. I keep trying to buy like secondhand shoes, but none of them fit. But I need to just go into a shop and buy shoes that fit. But if I know I'm going to use them and wear them, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Also, when you're a parent, sometimes like I've been on Amazon and been like, shit, I need a present for 9 a.m. tomorrow morning for a party that I forgot about. Fine. Like I never want to come across as this like preachy, you can only buy, like this is what I do. And obviously it's better for people and planet, but like you do you, hun. Like I'm just here to say my experience.
And I think as well, there's something to be said for like just being more conscious about what you're buying.
Definitely.
And like the same as you, I'm a bit of a mixture. I bought walking trainers from the shoe shop in Homefirth, and she like measured me, and I spent quite a lot of money on them, but I've worn them, oh fuck me, 20 miles a week, 25 miles a
Yeah.
week. And like, so of course it doesn't matter if they fall apart. If I can get them fixed, great.
Yeah.
Likelihood is maybe not because of the Gore-Tex and things like that, but like it's just looking after what you've got. But I think initially, even the bigger brand stuff initially isn't good enough to keep repairing and keep it for longer.
Yeah, this is the thing as well. Like, me and my sister always speak about this. Like, me and my sister and like my mum have always shopped in charity shops, like always, and there's been such a blow up of like people doing it now, which is amazing. And people always like to me like, are you pissed off now? Like, loads more people are doing it. I'm like, no, it's meant, that's what I'm saying for people to do. I think it's good. However, the quality of the stock over the years has reduced because there's less good stuff being made.
Mm-hmm.
So now vintage is like dying out. Like, we always be like, what will be vintage in 20 years? Because there'll be no brands. Like, what will be vintage? What will last? Yeah. Nothing is going to last that's been made.
Yeah.
So what will it be like then? Don't know.
Yeah, because it ain't going to be like, how do you even say it? Shein? I can't even say it.
I think Shein, yeah.
Yeah, like, because...
And that's what the charity shops are pretty much full of now. So it'll be really interesting to see.
I wonder if there'll be like a resurgence of more sustainable brands and like more smaller brands come out that's what'll, because they're made better, that's what'll hold on. I'd like
to think so, but it's so hard for small brands at the minute. Like, is anyone going to last that long?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, like, in even 5 years' time, to see what stuff looks like, and
Definitely.
So I've got one final question for you, and you can answer it in whichever way you feel you want to. But what inspires you, Kayleigh? What inspires you?
Bloody hell! I think like just bits of everything, really. Like, I think my main inspiration for Be Diddy was obviously like Penn being born and like watching her grow up, and like I want Be Diddy to be like a really playful place where like you come and you buy stuff for your kids that they love and you love, and it's like nostalgic to you. And I want it to be like pieces that you remember from them being a kid. Like, when you look back on your photos, be like, oh my God, remember that handmade Paddington jumper that you used to love? And so definitely like Penn for Be Diddy. And then in my life, just like my friends and family, really. I'm really close to my family. And like, I've got loads of really good mates. So yeah, just I can be inspired by anything. I know that's such a like blanket thing to say. But yeah, probably like my friends and family mostly. And then Penn is probably my number one muse.
Oh, that's so nice. I think as well, when you're creative, lots of different things pull your eye, don't they? You can be out on a walk and be like, oh, I've seen this, and this, and this, and pull stuff. So yeah, I do. I get that with you as well. I'm the same. Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Your ears must be like bleeding from the amount that I've been chatting.
I know, you're all right.
Break.
You're all right. It makes a change for me talking all the time. So.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Thanks for having me. It's been really, really fab.
Good. I'm so glad you've been on. It's just been a dream. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please rate, follow and share, as it really helps this little podcast out. And if you have found value in the podcast and you have the means to, I do have a Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes. This will help keep the podcast going. Join me next week for another fantastic guest. Bye!